She told me she was going to therapy. Every Wednesday evening like clockwork, she'd grab her little leather bag, kiss me on the cheek, and say, "Don't wait up, okay?" Sometimes the sessions run long, and for a while I believed her. I wanted to believe her, because therapy made sense. Things between us hadn't been perfect. Arguments over small things, a distance creeping in at night, her constant irritability. I figured maybe she was working on herself, maybe even us. So I smiled, told her I was proud of her for doing the hard work, and watched her walk out the door. But here's the question I keep asking myself even now. When did that instinct, that gnawing little voice in the back of my head, start screaming loud enough for me to stop ignoring it? Because once you cross that line, once suspicion plants its seed, you can't go back to blind trust. And that seed grew fast. It started with the receipts, crumpled slips in her purse from restaurants I'd never heard of, a credit card charge for wine at 9:30 on a Wednesday, when she was supposed to be talking about her childhood with a therapist. I brushed it off at first. People go to dinner after therapy. Right, maybe she needed to decompress. But then I noticed something else. Her GPS history. She'd left her phone on the counter one night while she showered, and a notification popped up. Normally I wouldn't snap, but curiosity is a dangerous thing when your gut already smells smoke. I clicked, and what I saw made my chest tighten. It wasn't an office building or a counseling center. It was a hotel. Not even a discreet, upscale hotel. No, this one was called the LoveNest Express. I remember staring at the screen, blinking, wondering if this was some sick joke. LoveNest Express. The name alone sounded like it belonged in a bad soap opera. But it was there, time-stamped, pinned on the map, clear as day. Wednesday night, therapy night. I sat there for a long time, her phone in my hand, the water running in the bathroom, my whole world tilting on its axis. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately, throw the phone at her feet, and demand answers. But another part of me, the colder, sharper part, whispered, "Wait, don't let her know what you know. Collect the truth. Because the truth, once you have it in your hands, is a weapon you can't be disarmed of." So I waited. For weeks. Every Wednesday I pretended to be busy, pretended not to notice the way she dressed, just a little nicer, dabbed on perfume she never wore for me anymore. I kissed her goodbye, told her I loved her, and then sat in my car half an hour later, following that little blinking GPS dot, like it was the most important map I'd ever read. And sure enough, each time it led me to the same place, the LoveNest Express. Now if you're imagining some romantic boutique hotel, wipe that picture out of your mind. This place was a roadside dump, dressed up with red neon lights and tacky velvet curtains. A motel trying too hard to be sexy, the kind of place that rents rooms by the hour, not the night. Every time I parked a block away and watched her walk inside, my stomach knotted tighter, and every time I thought, maybe tonight she won't go in. Maybe tonight she'll surprise me and actually show up at therapy. But she never did. She went in. Every damn time. I remember the first night I saw him. He pulled up in a beat-up SUV, 5 minutes after her. Average-looking guy, mid-40s, scruffy beard, cheap leather jacket. He didn't look like much, but the way she lit up when she saw him, that killed me. She smiled wider than she had in months, and then they disappeared inside together. I sat there in the dark, gripping the steering wheel, my heart pounding in my throat. I wanted to storm in, drag her out by the arm, demand to know what the hell she thought she was doing. But again, that colder voice held me back. Not yet. Don't make a scene. Document. Plan. Strike later, when it counts. So I became an investigator in my own marriage. I tracked her movements, took pictures of the SUV's plates, jotted down times, dates, details. My phone filled with notes that looked like something out of a police file. And with each piece of evidence, my anger hardened into something else. Not just rage, not just heartbreak. Strategy. Because here's the thing, when someone lies to you that boldly, that consistently, they think you're stupid. They think you'll never catch on. And when they get caught, they'll scramble, they'll spin, they'll beg. But if you prepare, if you stay 5 steps ahead, then the moment of confrontation isn't just messy emotion. It's execution. The cracks in her story started showing at home too. She'd come back late, her hair a little too messy, her blouse wrinkled. I'd ask how therapy went, and she'd launch into vague, rehearsed lines. We talked about communication. Or it's exhausting digging into my past. Always broad, never specific. I'd nod, pour her a glass of wine, and pretend to buy it. Inside I was memorizing every word, every twitch of her eyes when she lied. And then came the slip-up that sealed it. One Wednesday she walked in earlier than usual, her bag slung over her shoulder, looking flustered. Therapist cancelled last minute, she said too quickly. So I just came home. Really? I asked, casual as ever. That's strange. Did they say why? She hesitated, just a fraction of a second too long. Family emergency, I think. Must be tough, being a therapist, I said, forcing a chuckle. Always dealing with other people's emergencies, then having your own. She nodded, relieved I didn't press, but I already knew where she'd really be. And that night when she fell asleep beside me, I opened my laptop and started drafting an email to Amanda, my lawyer. But before I pulled the trigger, I wanted one more piece of evidence, something undeniable. So the following Wednesday, I didn't just follow her. I booked a room at the LoveNest Express, not in the same hallway, but close enough. I checked in early, curtains drawn, lights off, waiting. And at 7:12 p.m., I heard it, the muffled sound of laughter, footsteps shuffling down the hall, the distinct click of a door closing. I crept out, heart hammering, and slid a note under the door. Just one line. Hope therapy's going well. Then I walked out, drove home, and poured myself a drink. When she came back that night, she looked rattled, kept glancing at me like she expected me to explode. I kissed her cheek, asked if she wanted tea, and went to bed like nothing had happened. Because the real storm was still gathering. And here's the thing about storms. The longer they brew, the harder they... The next morning she moved through the kitchen like a shadow. She tried to play it cool, but I could feel the tension radiating off her. Every clink of a spoon, every shuffle of her feet was just a beat too forced. She knew. Maybe not exactly what I knew, but she felt it. That note I'd slid under the door at the LoveNest Express had rattled her cage. "Everything okay?" I asked, pouring coffee. My tone was casual, calm, like we were just two people starting another day. She looked up, her eyes wide for a second, then softened into a weak smile. "Yay. Just tired. Therapy's draining, you know." There it was. The lie served straight to my face, even after I'd practically announced myself at her little hideaway. That's when I realized just how deep she was willing to bury herself in deception. And that gave me clarity. This wasn't going to be a screaming match in our living room. No, this was going to be a carefully orchestrated dismantling. So I waited. I kept gathering. Photos, receipts, timestamps. Even a copy of the LoveNest Express brochure that I plucked from the lobby one night. I tucked it neatly into my folder like a collector, adding another card to a deck. By the time Amanda, my lawyer, flipped through it all, she looked at me with raised brows. "You've done half my job already," she said, sliding a page back into the folder. "This is AITA. If you want to move forward, we can have papers drafted next week." "Not yet," I said. "I want her to feel it first. I want her to see how stupid she's been." Amanda leaned back, studying me. "Just don't wait too long. The more time you give her, the more she has to prepare." "I'm not giving her time," I replied. "I'm giving her rope." The confrontation happened 2 weeks later. Not by accident, by design. I invited her out to dinner. Someplace nice, not too fancy but just enough to make her think I was trying. She showed up in a red dress I hadn't seen in years, her smile brittle, like she was bracing for impact. "Therapy helping?" I asked, midway through the meal, swirling my glass of wine. She hesitated, then nodded. "Yay, I think so. It's hard, but I feel like I'm making progress." "Progress," I repeated, savoring the word. Then I pulled the brochure out of my jacket pocket and slid it across the table. "That's what they call it at the LoveNest Express." The color drained from her face so fast it was almost impressive. She stared at the paper, then at me, her lips parting but no words coming out. For once she was speechless. "I've been patient," I said quietly, leaning in so only she could hear. I've watched you walk out every Wednesday night, telling me you were fixing us, when really you were just renting rooms by the hour. I've followed, documented, photographed, and I know everything." Her hand trembled as she set down her fork. It's not what you think. Don't." I cut her off, my voice low but sharp. "Don't insult me with that. You've lied enough. The only thing I want from you now is honesty. So go on. Tell me who he is." Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't flinch. I'd cried enough in silence. It was her turn to drown in it. Finally she whispered a name. The guy with the beat-up SUV. Exactly as I'd known. And that's when I dropped the second bomb. Funny, because he's already been served a subpoena. She blinked, confused. "What? Witness? Divorce proceedings? See, you didn't just cheat on me. You cheated with someone dumb enough to leave a paper trail a mile wide. His ex-wife is very interested in his activities, and now he's tied up in 2 cases. Congratulations, you managed to ruin 2 families for the price of 1 motel room." Her jaw quivered, her face pale, and for the first time in years, she looked small, fragile, powerless. And I can't lie, it felt good. The weeks that followed were chaos for her. For me, controlled execution. Amanda filed the divorce papers with surgical precision. The evidence stacked so high she couldn't even attempt to fight. Every time she tried to stall, another document landed in front of her. A receipt, a photo, a text, each one a nail in the coffin of her excuses. Her lover didn't fare much better. His ex-wife dragged him back to court, using my evidence to squeeze every last cent she could. Word spread through his office too, and within a month he was out of a job. The SUV disappeared from her motel rendezvous, and suddenly my wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife, was sitting alone in our house, staring at walls that no longer felt safe. One night she tried to appeal to me. "Can't we fix this? Forget it happened. We've got years together. A life." I laughed, actually laughed. "You expect me to erase the image of you walking into a place called the LoveNest Express every week like clockwork? To forget you looked me in the eye and lied, over and over? No, you don't come back from that." She cried, begged, swore she'd change. But it was all theater, and I was done being the audience. The day the divorce was finalized, I felt an odd mix of grief and relief. Grief for the man I'd been, the trusting husband, who believed in therapy nights and late dinners. Relief for the man I'd become, the one who refused to be played for a fool. Walking out of the courthouse, Amanda clapped me on the shoulder. "You handled this better than most," she said. "Did I?" I asked. "You didn't burn the house down in anger. You dismantled it brick by brick. That takes control." And she was right, because in the end revenge wasn't about explosions. It was about precision, about watching the people who thought they outsmarted you collapse under the weight of their own arrogance. My ex-wife moved out a month later, taking half the furniture and none of her dignity. I kept the house. The silence inside those walls was heavy at first, but it was clean, honest. I could live with that. As for the LoveNest Express, I drove past it one night, just to see. The neon sign flickered, the parking lot half empty. Another couple strolled inside, hand in hand, chasing their little thrill. I shook my head and drove on. Not my circus anymore. But sometimes, late at night, I think about that note I left under her door. "Hope therapy's going well." That one line had cracked her whole facade. And I realize now, it wasn't just for her. It was for me too. A reminder that when the truth finally shows its face, it's sharper than any lie. So if you ask me what therapy taught her, nothing. But it taught me plenty. It taught me to trust my gut, to never mistake silence for blindness. And most of all, it taught me that when someone underestimates you, the best satisfaction isn't proving them wrong. It's letting them destroy themselves while you hold the receipts. And she did. Oh, she did.